How is it going, Trailblazers? So if you clicked on this video, then you're probably interested in the latest information we've gotten regarding all of the upcoming character banners coming to Honkai Star Rail. And you want to plan out your stellar Jade savings accordingly so you can guarantee the characters you're interested in, right? Well, you're definitely in the right place, because today we're going to be going over all of the currently expected character banners coming to the game from version 4.6 all the way up to version 5.0. We'll be taking a look at the new characters coming in each patch first, before moving on to the potential rerun banners and briefly going over which characters could be making a return. But before we get started, just a quick reminder that some of the information we'll be discussing is based on early information, leaks, and speculation, especially when it comes to the rerun banners and the later patches. So none of this should be considered completely guaranteed, and things can always change before these versions officially go live. With that out of the way, let's start things off with version 4.6. As confirmed through the latest drip marketing, version 4.6 will introduce Pearl as the only new playable character for the patch. Pearl is now confirmed to be a 5-star ice character following the Path of Elation, and based on the latest information, she appears to be designed primarily as a sustain and support character for Elation teams. What makes Pearl particularly interesting is that she doesn't seem to be a conventional sustain who simply keeps the team alive. Her kit is reportedly heavily connected to other Elation characters, and she can provide different forms of support depending on the composition of the team. One of the most interesting mechanics currently associated with Pearl is her ability to change her own path during combat, which can apparently alter the functions of her kit and the buffs she provides. She's also expected to have access to both healing and shielding, meaning she could potentially provide a combination of sustain and offensive utility in the same team. If these details remain intact, Pearl could end up being one of the most valuable characters for dedicated Elation teams, since she wouldn't just occupy the sustain slot, but could also contribute directly to the team's overall gameplay mechanic. So if you're already invested in the Elation archetype, Pearl is definitely going to be a character worth watching closely. And while Pearl is the only new character currently expected for 4.6, the rerun side of the patch is looking considerably more interesting. For Phase 1, the current possibilities include Silver Wolf LV.999 or Evanesha. Since Silver Wolf LV.999 is already a released character, we don't really need to go through her entire kit again. The important thing from a banner perspective is that she remains one of the major Elation options available to players, so her rerun would be particularly relevant for anyone who missed her original banner or wants additional investment into an Elation-focused account. Evanesha is the other potential Phase 1 rerun, and she would also be a particularly relevant option for players building around Elation. So if either of these two ends up taking the Phase 1 rerun slot, this could be a very Elation-focused first half of the patch. Then for Phase 2, we're currently looking at Mortonak's Blade and Tribby. Mortonak's Blade is already available in the game as a 5-star Fire Nihility character, and his main gameplay role is that of a debuffer and sub-DPS hybrid. He can increase the team's overall damage through his debuffs, while also contributing a significant amount of damage himself, making him particularly useful in teams built around characters that benefit from enemy debuffs. He's also quite flexible when it comes to team building, since his damage amplification can benefit a variety of DPS archetypes rather than being locked to one specific team. Then we have Tribby, who is a Quantum Harmony support focused heavily on increasing the team's offensive output. She provides powerful team-wide buffs, including all-type resistance penetration, while also contributing additional damage through her follow-up attacks. This makes Tribby particularly valuable in teams that can trigger her additional attacks frequently, while her buffs also make her useful across a wide variety of DPS teams. So between Mortonak's Blade and Tribby, Phase 2 would offer two very different types of support value, Mortonak's for debuff-based damage amplification and Tribby for direct team-wide offensive buffs. But again, I want to emphasize that these rerun placements are still speculative. Hoyoverse can always change the rerun lineup before 4.6 actually arrives. Moving into version 4.7, we're currently expecting Nihilix to be the only new playable character. Nihilix is currently expected to be a 5-star quantum character following the path of elation, and unlike Pearl, who appears to be focused on sustain and support, Nihilix is shaping up to be much more of an elation-focused damage dealer. The latest information suggests that Nihilix is intended to function as one of the main damage dealers for elation teams. Her kit is also expected to revolve around the unique mechanics of the elation path rather than simply functioning as a conventional DPS with an elation label attached to her. There have been several different versions of Nihilix's leaked kit circulating, so I'm not going to treat every individual mechanic as final. But the general direction is fairly clear. Pearl appears to provide the sustain and support, while Nihilix is being positioned more toward the damage-dealing side of the elation archetype. And that could make 4.7 an especially important patch for players who want to build a dedicated elation team rather than simply using 1 or 2 elation characters in a more conventional composition. Then we get to version 4.8, which is easily one of the most unusual updates on this entire roadmap. That's because version 4.8 is expected to be dedicated largely to the Honkai Star Rail and Zenless Zone Zero collaboration, bringing Ellen Jo and Astra Yao into Star Rail. However, unlike the characters we've talked about so far, we really don't have any reliable information about how Ellen Jo or Astra Yao will actually function in Honkai Star Rail. At the moment, all we can really say is that both characters are expected to make their Star Rail debut as part of the version 4.8 collaboration. Their elements, paths, rarities, gameplay roles, and kits have not been reliably revealed yet, so there's not much point in speculating about their gameplay until we get more concrete information. This also means we don't know whether they'll be designed as DPS characters, supports, sustains, or potentially fill completely new roles within the Star Rail roster. So for now, the main thing to keep in mind is simply that Ellen Jo and Astra Yao are the 2 announced crossover characters for version 4.8, and we'll have to wait for future drip marketing and official reveals before we can properly judge their gameplay and decide which one might be worth pulling for. And after the collaboration, we're apparently heading straight into version 5.0, where things get even more interesting. The current roadmap points toward Firefly SP being one of the major characters introduced in version 5.0. Unlike the other characters we've discussed, Firefly SP will be a new version of an already existing character rather than an entirely new addition to the roster. What we do know so far is that Firefly SP will be following the path of finality, which is already enough to get people wondering what direction Hoyoverse is planning to take her gameplay. Beyond that, however, there's still very little reliable information available about her actual kit. But if you're already a Firefly fan, this is definitely a banner you'll want to keep an eye on as we get closer to version 5.0. But anyways, that's pretty much all of the current roadmap information that we have right now for version 4.6 to 5.0. So if you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to stay up to date with all the latest Honkai Star Rail leaks, news, and guides. That's it for now, so I'll see you guys in the next video.